Well, here's another real life story. This one is probably the one that inspired Stephen, my son, to frequently ask for, Dad, can you tell me another real life story? So that's why this group of videos is known as RLS, Real Life Stories. Well, in the summer of 1977, Mark Reed and I, my good buddy from Rutgers College, Christian guy, both of us, radical Christian guys. We went to New York City to the Lambs Club to see Paul Stookey, the Paul of Peter, Paul, and Mary. His actual given name is Noel, Noel, Noel Stookey. I believe he's now like 86. But in 1977, he was doing a solo concert in New York City at the Lambs Club, and he knocked it out of the park. His witness was very strong. His Christian beliefs were very strong. And both Mark and I were incredibly impressed with the caliber of his playing. He is the guy who wrote and performed the wedding song. And for many decades, that was a wedding favorite. It's called the wedding song. Anyway, Mark and I actually made our way backstage after the concert, and Noel welcomed us and sat with us for, I don't know, probably 15, maybe even 20 minutes. It was pretty cool. Just talking with him about the Lord and all kinds of other stuff. Excuse me. In autumn of 1977, October, I believe, in fact, I'm almost sure of it, Mark, Reed, and Kathy married at the Millington Baptist Church, and I played at their wedding, and possibly even the wedding song, I don't remember. But Mark and Kathy got married, and they were going up to the coast of Massachusetts for their honeymoon. I had decided that I was going to take a trip up along the coast of Maine. And so they pretty much demanded that I visit them on their honeymoon, which is really fascinating. So I did. While they were still on their honeymoon, I went up to Massachusetts and visited with them, and spent one night, and then I got back in my car and was heading for the coast of Maine, which is not very far away from Cape Cod, which is where I believe they had gone. I guess the night afterwards, I stopped in Camden, Maine, which is a fabulous little town right on the coast, and absolutely gorgeous. I really fell in love with Camden, Maine, and I was sleeping in a tent, and I had a full-blown nor'easter slam into the coast that night. My tent did well for a while, and then the rain came the water just came right through the tent, soaking everything, and a couple hours before the sun even came up, I had to pack up and get out of there. I had to get in the car. So that was rough. During the concert in New York City, Noel had mentioned that he and his wife and the children had moved to Blue Hill, Maine. Well, I found Blue Hill on the map, and that was going to be the next day. So I guess I got an early start from Camden that morning, and I made my way out to Blue Hill, Maine, and had to ask a couple of people where I might find Paul Stookey. And of course, he was pretty well known in the little town of Blue Hill. So I got directions, and they told me about a huge 4-story hen house that he had converted and was continuing to convert into a recording studio. And they gave me directions, and I found the place, and I knocked on the door, and everybody was out to lunch, except his assistant. And she invited me in to look around, showed me around, and just about as the tour was ending, suddenly the door opens up, and here comes Noel and his entourage, and they were in the midst of recording. a female from Connecticut, I believe. I don't remember the person's name, but Noel walked in and he took one look at me and he said, "Recently, New York, is it Tom?" He almost remembered my name from probably, let's say, 3 months before or whatever. That was really caught my attention. I thought that was pretty impressive. Anyway, he invited me to sit in the control room as for probably 3 or 4 hours as they worked on the recording of this young lady from Connecticut. Great fun. I'm literally sitting next to Noel Stookey in his recording studio along the coast of Maine. It was pretty awesome. At some point, it was time to move on. My goal was to get to Bar Harbor, which was a couple of more peninsulas northeast from Blue Hill. And so I had to hit the road. And I believe I pulled into the Black Forest Campground. I believe that's what it was called, at Bar Harbor, Acadia National Park, Bar Harbor, Maine. And it was still drizzling, and my tent and my pack and so much stuff was just still soaked from the night before. So I decided to put everything under the car. And by the way, there was no one in the campground. There were no other cars. It was late in the season. I eventually found out the next day that the following weekend would be the end of the season up there. So I put stuff under my car and was getting ready to just go to sleep in my station wagon. I had an old 66 Oldsmobile station wagon that I had hand painted white. And yet, as I'm putting stuff under the car, there's this booming in the distance, almost like a rumble, an occasional rumble or explosions even. And once I got everything set up, I had to go find out what this was. So I grabbed an umbrella and a flashlight and just started bushwhacking straight through the trees, trying to go in the direction of what I thought was the booming. And eventually I came out on a rock face that goes straight down to the Atlantic Ocean. And there were monstrous waves coming in and smashing on the rocks and shooting spray 30 and 40 feet up in the air. It was exciting. Thankfully, it was only a drizzle. So I ran back to the car and I got a second, I probably got another layer because it was pretty cold. I got a second flashlight and a second umbrella. And went back down and sat on the rocks as these monster waves, 10 feet, a good 10 feet, were coming in, smashing on this steep rock wall, and their mist was just shooting all over the place. It was awesome. And I was there alone experiencing this. Excuse me. At some point, judging how big the waves were, I actually moved down the hill, down the steep slope a little, and kind of wedged myself in between a couple of the rocks, just sitting there, taking it all in. There were times where there was enough ambient light that I could actually turn off the flashlights and just watch the foam go down and then rise up, and I knew another wave was coming. And great fun, all by myself. And during one of those dark times, I saw the foam go down, and then it went down again. And I flipped on, most of the waves were, I'm guessing, 10 to maybe 13 feet high, which that's huge. But when the foam went down and then went down again, I flipped on both flashlights, and here came a wave that was as high as my feet on the rocks. I was scared to death. I turned off the lights and just wedged my hands and my arms under whatever rocks I could quickly find. I had no idea if this monster rogue wave was going to sweep me off of the rocks or not. Had it taken me out, I would have been fish bait. My body would have been ground into little tiny pieces. The lobsters and the fish would have really enjoyed having me for lunch. This is at night, so imagine the terror. The wave came, it hit the rock, and I believe that the spray went straight up, maybe 60 feet. It did sweep across the rock and got darn close to where my feet were, but it didn't hit me, and it did not take me away. Needless to say, I crawled farther back up on the rocks, roughly where I had been, for the first 30 or 40 minutes. And it was one of the ultimate experiences of my life. I know the first time that I told that story to Stephen, he was thrilled. So from then on, he used to ask me, Dad, can you tell me another real life story? So that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Thanks.